Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to Tom's Take. This is my movie channel. My name is Tom and thank you very much for joining me for this, my review of the John Hughes film Planes, Trains and Automobiles. This movie's coming up on its 30th anniversary. It's a movie starring Steve Martin and John Candy. Steve Martin plays Neal Page, John Candy plays Del Griffith. And this is the story of Neal Page trying to get home for Thanksgiving. He's at work in New York 2 days before the Thanksgiving holiday, and he's on his way home to Chicago. His flight gets delayed. He runs into John Candy's character at the airport. They end up on this journey together, both trying to get back home. John Candy's Del Griffith is this annoying blabbermouth, as he says he is in the movie. He just won't shut up. He's annoying to Neal Page's character, and craziness ensues. They try to get a plane home, that doesn't work. They try to drive home, that doesn't work. They try to get a train home, that doesn't work. And this movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it is an underrated comedy. It does have quite a large fan base who are very nostalgic for this movie. But to the vast majority of people, I don't know how many people have really seen this movie, because this movie to me is quite underappreciated. I talk to a lot of people when we talk about our favorite comedies, and they say, hey, what's your favorite comedy? And they'll mention things like The Hangover or The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I'll go, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, and I go, what is that? And I'm like, see it, treat yourself. If you guys haven't seen this movie, treat yourself. Rent it wherever you can, see it. Watch it. This movie's hilarious. Especially watch it over the Thanksgiving holiday, because it is the Thanksgiving weekend. Not for us here in Australia. We do not celebrate it, but it is a very good movie nonetheless. I'm not going to give away any major spoilers for this movie. I'm just going to talk about some of the reasons as to why this movie hits me on a very deep personal level. So, I saw an interview recently with John Hughes, who has sadly passed away since making this movie, but I saw an old interview with him and Steve Martin and John Candy, and John Hughes said, he was asked why he cast Steve Martin and John Candy in these roles, and he said, well, they're basically just playing heightened versions of themselves. Steve Martin is a very quiet, methodical, subtle person, despite being very funny, and John Candy, you know, he's kind of the big, lovable, funny guy that you love, and they play on that in this movie, and that's what makes this work so well, is that you've got these two polar opposite types of people, and I'm not just talking about the actors now, I'm talking about the characters themselves, Neal Page and Del Griffith, that, you know, somehow work together. It's this opposites attract kind of thing. You know, they have their differences throughout the film, and I relate to both of them. It's this weird movie where they're polar opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. For me personally anyway, because, you know, I can be subtle, I can be methodical, I can be quiet, I can be a very grumpy, antisocial human being. And that's, you know, Steve Martin's character, Neal Page, whereas, you know, I can be Del Griffith, the loud, annoying, boisterous, very in-your-face, forward person. And I've been both of those people. I've been both of those types of people to all of my friends, and my friends will tell you I can be both of those. And, you know, that's why I think this movie hits me on that level, because I relate to both of these characters and the problems that they have with one another and their mood swings and their development throughout the movie. You know, you learn a lot from this movie, I think, about how to respect others, how to deal with people who are annoying you, and at least for me anyway. Now, most comedies in the last, like, let's say 5 or 10 years rely on dick jokes, sex jokes, stupid gags that really we're sick of by now. We don't care anymore. You watch something like Baywatch or Rough Night, and I didn't hate both of those movies, but the humor is very predictable. You're like, yeah, that's another boob joke, that's another tit joke, that's another dick joke, you know. Planes, Trains and Automobiles does have some dirty jokes, but they're clever, and they're done in such a way where you're not like, oh, it's just another dick joke. And I feel like this movie, you know, it uses humor, but the humor and the jokes and every single joke in this movie, every single gag that they use progresses the story, and it also develops the characters. We've all had those experiences. How many times, I can't tell you how many times, you've been lost, or you've been on a plane, or you've been late for a plane, or it's been cancelled or delayed. It's very relatable in that way, and that's what makes the movie timeless to me, because we can all relate to certain things in this movie. Now, one thing that does surprise me more and more the older I get and the more I watch this movie is that it's surprisingly deep. Underneath, if you scratch the surface of this movie, there are very emotional scenes in this movie. Del Griffith especially, he's got a lot of depth to that character. He's not just there for the funny jokes and the comic relief. The depth of John Candy's performance in this movie cannot be understated. He is very funny, and he has some hilarious stuff, and he says some funny stuff, but he conveys this inner sadness, like I said, emotional baggage. And that's what I really, really appreciate about this movie, about John Hughes movies in general. There seems to be an underlying message throughout most of his movies. If you look at even Ferris Bueller's Day Off, there are some messages that movie is also trying to convey. And this movie does that as well. I think this movie actually does that better than, say, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Two movies, both written and directed by John Hughes, both movies that I love. I love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It's funny, it's relatable, it's surprisingly deep and emotional. This movie to me just hits all the right notes. So that is my review of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Click that subscribe button and help me out. I have lots of reviews of new movies coming soon. And I will talk to you guys next time.